Welcome viewers to News 21, where we unmask the truth. For some time now, the world's attention has been centered around Rwanda, and one man has been at the center of this attention: Paul Kagame. A few weeks ago, he was accused by Congo of backing M23 rebels who recently launched an attack in the border town of Kivu, causing many to flee their homes. Then he signed a $147 million deal with Boris Johnson to have Britain dump its unwanted refugees in Rwanda. An accord that still hangs in the balance after a last-minute intervention by the European Court of Human Rights. And finally, Rwanda is hosting the Commonwealth Heads of Government in its capital city of Kigali, with leaders like Boris Johnson and Justin Trudeau among the leaders to be attending. All these series of events have drawn lots of international attention to this country and its leader over the past month. For some people, Kagame is seen as a liberator, someone who took Rwanda from the remains of its devastating 1994 genocide that left over 1 million Rwandans dead, to the level of being hailed by Western nations as a model of growth. Some diplomats, like the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Tibor Nagy, on his first visit to Rwanda, described the country as demonstrating the true potential of Africa. While many see Kagame as a liberator, for others, his successes have come at the expense of human rights in the country. Last year, the U.S. State Department published a report identifying significant human rights issues ranging from unlawful or arbitrary killings by the government to forced disappearance, amongst others. Contrary to being a safe haven for refugees, in 2018, 11 Congolese refugees were killed when Rwandan police opened fire at a refugee camp during a protest over cuts to their food rations. This event has raised global concerns regarding the safety and security of the recent British asylum seekers deportation deal. According to a report by Israeli media, Haaretz, some Israeli-based refugees that were deported to Rwanda between 2014 and 2017 complained of how they struggled to survive. Many had to flee to other countries, while those who chose to stay got denied official documents by Rwandan authorities, leading to the arrest and imprisonment of many. Human Rights Watch recently profiled the country as being safe only for those who toe the line. According to Louis Marge, the Central African director at Human Rights Watch, just because Rwanda is safe for the Westerners doesn't necessarily translate to safety for all Rwandans. To him, Rwanda is a safe country if you keep your head down and don't ask questions or challenge anything. The moment you step up and start to question something or express an independent opinion, Rwanda becomes a very difficult country to live in. The gains made to Rwanda under Kagame's leadership are indeed undeniable, but this leadership has been widely characterized by human rights abuses. In 2022, the Freedom in the World report by the Freedom House found that while the regime has maintained stability and economic growth, it has also suppressed political challenges through pervasive surveillance, intimidation, torture, and renditions or suspected assassinations of exiled dissidents. Opposition politician Victoire Ingabire was the presidential candidate of the United Democratic Force (FDL) party in the 2010 presidential race, but quickly became a victim of Kagame's crackdown on dissents. She left the Netherlands to play an active role in Rwandan politics, but ended up being jailed on what she called trumped-up charges of terrorism and threats to national security. She was arrested in 2010 and spent 8 years in prison. In 2018, she was released by presidential pardon, which came with a condition that she couldn't leave the country without government permission. 3 times she's asked permission to visit her family in the Netherlands, but the government did not respond to her request. Today she lives with a looming fear for her life because of her strong critics. Just like any other autocrat, Kagame doesn't like critics. If you criticize the government, you are labeled as an enemy of the state, then you are arrested and sent to prison. Paul Rusesabagina, another outspoken critic of Kagame who is best known for inspiring the movie Hotel Rwanda, was convicted last year of terrorism charges and sentenced to 25 years in prison by a court in Kigali. He was renowned for saving more than 1,000 people during the country's genocide by sheltering them in the hotel he managed. Accused by authorities of being involved with the National Liberation Front, an armed wing of the Rwandan Movement for Democratic Change, he denied responsibility for their attacks. During a visit to Burundi, Rusesabagina was arrested and extradited to Rwanda to be sentenced. Contrary to what is shown in the media, Rwanda's economic growth is a myth as poverty remains high in rural areas with a high unemployment rate, especially among the youths. According to the UN's Multidimensional Poverty Index, poverty rates in rural parts of the country stands at 42%. Also, infrastructural developments are concentrated only in the capital city of Kigali, while other cities have very few such infrastructures. If you want to know the truth about Kagame, speak to a Rwandan refugee, a Rwandan in exile. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe as a way of supporting us.